Hey, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural show of The Gold Mine. You may be expecting the collective, but not today. So, super excited to get this started. If any of you haven't figured it out already, you should be liking the show, subscribing to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all that good stuff, get your emails whenever we go live, which is going to be once a week from now on. I have two awesome dudes here from down in the States. We got Joey and Drew. I'm going to give you guys 10 to 15 seconds each to give us a quick little intro, who you are, where you come from, all that good stuff. Joey, you're up first.
Sure. So my name is Joey. I am a born and raised Philadelphian, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm the co-founder of Fuel Hunt with Drew, my cousin. He's in another little box over there that you're watching. We started Fuel Hunt in 2017 as a community. It became a counter movement, and then it became a clothing company. So hopefully we get into all that today. But a little word about myself. I'm a girl dad. I'm a grappler. I practice jujitsu, and I'm interested in all things growth, which explains Fuel Hunt and our community. Am I under 15 seconds?
No, but it's okay. Well, you're over
I
by a
already
little bit.
failed.
That's all
I
good.
already failed.
Hey, you know what? That's how we learn, right?
Yeah,
Drew, how about yourself?
it's difficult to follow up Joey because we have so much in common. So like Joey's my cousin. I'm also Drew, co-founder of Fuel Hunt, and I'm also a grappler, Philadelphian, but boy dad. I am a big reader. I find that great leaders are great readers, and I like to spend my time doing that as well.
Outstanding. I like it. So, well, let's get this started. I have a quick question for you before we get into any of the videos, and then just kind of start off the conversation. I was having a chat with a friend of mine earlier today. We were trying to solve this whole social media thing, right, and try to figure out what it is that is working, what isn't working, and we kind of dove down into the depths of the question of how do we get other people to see that they should want to be better. And that is the crux of it all, is that, social media really highlights the negative, the clickbaity, the all that good stuff. How do we keep it flowing? How do we keep it moving? How do we get more people involved and wanting to be awesome? So I'm going to start with Joey. What do you think?
Yeah. So in particular with social media, I think it's key to be authentic, right? You have to show up as your authentic self, which is a flawed, imperfect person, right? And I think that that's really how you keep people engaged. And also, you didn't use the word convince, but I'll use it. Convince them that growth is the best option for them, personal and professional growth. But I think it starts with being authentic. If you're not authentic, what you're doing is you're creating a highlight reel that nobody relates to. They're not going to listen. So if you could be talking about the most valuable information, the most impactful information for personal growth that will end their human suffering and help them build better habits. But if you're not doing it authentically from a place of, I went through this, I struggled, and now I'm strong because of it, they're not going to pay attention and participate. So I hope that answered your question.
No, absolutely. Drew, what are you thinking?
I'd like to echo that statement. I do agree that authenticity is number one, and we've always tried to portray that in our content and on our pages. But one thing I would like to follow that up with is the question Joey and I have always asked ourselves before we post anything on social media or look to grow our community is, how is this post or what I'm about to post going to provide value to my followers? And I think if more people focused on that, they would have a lot more success in social media.
I like that a lot. Shaun, what are you thinking?
Well, I do know that you guys have got a pretty large following. It's not a phenomenon, but it's a movement that was created based on several mantras, which are kind of in alignment with how I've always run my life. I'm 60 years old, by the way, and so I might precede the two of you by about 50 years. Maybe 40.
You'd be surprised.
Okay, 30.
You'd be surprised.
I'm only teasing. So I know that we're kind of in alignment based on what I saw from you guys online when I was sniffing around last night. And so given that we're pretty much in alignment, and I haven't tried to really build out social media in a huge way. To your point, I just do me authentically, and if anyone's into it, that's cool, and if they're not, that's cool. I'm not trying to create a million followers. I'm just doing my life. But you guys have kind of maybe found a little bit of a blend where you're doing your life. As you said, you're
Mhm.
both grapplers. And I think I heard back in, you kind of maybe started around 2021 or something like that. Yeah. So you've
That's
been in grappling for a little while, but I don't see you guys like really rah rah sis boom bang it every single day. We're grapplers, we're grapplers. But you mention it. So there's a line between mentioning it on occasion and mentioning it every single day. And you guys seem to have found the right balance for being authentic without being posers. You've found the right balance between keeping it real without flaring out. So is it just something that you've done kind of naturally? Did it fall into place naturally over a period of time, or did your followers or your community as a whole kind of shape you guys as to how you kind of deliver this information?
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's very
Jo-
good. That's a very good question. So
Joey?
we are. It fell into place naturally just because of the type of people that Drew and I are. And I apologize for the background noise. We are in the city of Philadelphia, and there will be sirens and car horns, as you may or
It's
may
a
not
parade
hear.
for you, buddy. It's a
Uh,
parade for you.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. So it fell into place naturally because of the type of people we are. As Drew mentioned, we are givers, and we wanted to make sure that we were always providing value to our community. Also, Drew and I have checked our ego over the years, big time. So what we're doing has never been about us. It's been about our community, our individual community members' life, and making sure that we can support them on the path to growth. It's been that way since day one. A lot of people say it, but as you can see, our actions map to it. It took us, we started Fuel Hunt in 2017, not the best business move, honestly, but it took us until this year, so 6 years, to start a podcast or to put our faces in the front of Fuel Hunt and lead with our faces because we just felt like it wasn't about us. Now we've learned that, we made a mistake, and it's our job not to just lead the pack from the back, as wolves do, but also lead from the front. So it happened naturally, to answer your question, just because of the type of people we are. Drew, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, yeah, that was well said. But we felt like in the space too, like a lot of the brands we were competing with, for lack of a better word, they were all of their founders or CEOs, etc., would be on Instagram like flexing their cars or their warehouses or what they were doing on a day-to-day basis. And Joey and I, we said no to every podcast request. We got so many in the beginning, like, can you come on our show and talk about the movement of the company? And we realized we were kind of, once our friend Bedros told us that you guys got to get out there, we were like, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot by not spreading our movement through these podcasts or even having a podcast of our own to highlight our community members. So, like Joey said, we just started this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we struggled with that for a little bit. I think I had to poke Sean a couple of times, but just to put our faces, like you can see in the corner there, the collective
Mm-hmm.
here, we went through a number of iterations on ways to do it without having our faces front, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you got to remember that you guys are part of the brand, right? And that's a tricky line.
Yeah, it goes back to the authenticity thing. I connected the dots much later in our journey, but we have to show up as our authentic selves, and part of that is leading from the front and showing the community who we are, how we live, in a way that again is authentic and shows them that everything we've achieved up to this point is possible for them too.
Absolutely. John, or sorry, Drew, you got any additional points on this, or you guys good to jump into a video that we could discuss? Good to go. All right, let's do it. So the first one I'm going to pull up is one of your guys's, and it really it stuck with me, so I want to bring it up, and then we'll discuss it here in a second.
Risk is to live.
Where
If
is
you're not taking
There we go.
risks, you're essentially a breathing corpse.
And I love that line. I'm going to play it one more time because the video was a little
Believe to
screwy.
risk is to live. If you're not taking risks, you're essentially a breathing corpse.
I just love that line. So you're
Thank you.
essentially a breathing corpse. You want to talk a little bit more about that thought?
Sure. So we have, rewinding a little bit, we're a community that lives by a code of conduct. That code of conduct is what we call the rules of the few. And we live that code of conduct in our day-to-day lives to strengthen ourselves, but in turn strengthen society, right? Because of some of the ills and the trends that we see and continue to see, that we disagree with, right? Most of the rules of the few are growth-based. Die growing is one of the rules. And what I said in that video is another way to explain that rule. We're all beginning to die as soon as we're born. And the other thing that we need to remember is life is risky. Life gets risky as soon as we're born. We have no idea what's going to happen to us on a day-to-day basis. So living life as a passenger and not as a driver, and not taking the risks that deep down you should take to become who you're really meant to be, is just another way of walking around like a zombie, like a breathing corpse. The alternative to that is to risk, which I believe, as I said in the video, is to truly live, to truly become who you're meant to be, that future you that you see in your mind before, your chatty coworkers or your media outlet that you watch comes in and tries to wreck it and convince you otherwise, that you should be something else. So many of our rules are center around growth to the grave. And that clip is just another way for me to describe that in a way that really hits home. So I'm glad it hit you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fantastic. Drew, you got any thoughts to add onto this? Nothing?
Not really. Just to echo Joey's point, like from the moment we're born, like we're put into a box and told not to risk anything, right? Like we're told to embrace comfort and slowly die. So when Joey says things like that, it strikes me in that way. It makes me think about how much society tries to keep us contained and not risk it all.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Shaun, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, I haven't seen much of Few Will Hunt's clips. I've only watched a 1-hour YouTube interview, as I mentioned in the green room to the fellas before we went live. So I'm catching up as to what Few Will Hunt is in this podcast. And so what I do like, what I saw last night, and what I do like what I'm hearing right now is, again, that alignment of being authentic, pushing the pace, kicking that ass. And so I've been kicking ass all my life. And something that I was thinking about yesterday, took a few minutes to reflect on kind of where I'm at in my life journey, which sounds melodramatic, but I do it every day. So just kind of check in with how things are rolling. And the thing that popped into my head is, to the point that we're talking about right now, you can kick ass all day long for the rest of your life and you'll die an ass kicker. But what did you leave behind? And so right now I'm thinking about the delineation between ass kicking and creating. And so I'm moving into a phase of my life now where I've done a boatload of ass kicking, but now I'm trying to leave something behind. I'm trying to create. You can do, but do is different than create. Creating is leaving something behind when you're gone, like Michelangelo or whatever. Name an artist. Name someone who's produced something for humanity that is still tangible today. So I'm at a point in my life where I'm looking at ass kicking versus creation. And so you guys are kind of you're early into your journey where you're kind of doing both. You're creating content, you're creating apparel, you're creating a community while pushing the message of kick that ass. And so, are you trying to? Now, this is my question to you. Are you trying to do it consciously, where you're sending your message out and you're realizing what you're accomplishing while you're doing it, or is it you're kind of in free flow, you're in the zone every day, and you look back a year or two into the past and you realize, oh, I guess this is what's happening. So again, for clarity, are you consciously creating what you're doing? You're consciously creating, or is it you're just kicking ass and you realize that you're doing some creation? I hope that makes sense.
Let's start with Drew. What do you think?
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I want to say something, and I hope Joey agrees with me. But from a business perspective overall, I would say we're in a state of flow. And the reason I say that is because when we first started, we were throwing a lot of shit at the wall and seeing what stuck, right? And a lot of our success came from showing up every day and doing the work necessary to continue to push our movement forward. And there was a pivotal moment in our business journey where, and again, when you start anything, especially entrepreneurship and business, you realize that like creating your brand, your logo, and your business plan is all fun. And then you have to, my friend says, like cross the Sahara Desert to actually get the success and start to get customers. So we had all this great momentum building our community and our blog, for lack of a better word, because Joey said, one day, do we have a blog or a business? And we realized we had to actually monetize this. If we wanted to continue to do this for the rest of our lives, we had to do something to make money, right? We had to somehow generate revenue. And one day when sales were slow, I called Joe and I'm like, dude, like, I don't like, how are we going to do this? And Joe was like, dude, we're going to figure this out or we're going to die on the sword before we do. And when he said that, something that I think clicked in both of us. We're like, all right, we're going to figure this out, right? Like we're going to do what's required to build this amazing community and legacy for our families and our kids long after we're gone. And the best part about it all is like we create not only motivational quotes on the internet that keep people's lives moving forward. Like the amount of messages we get saying thank you for saving me is like the best part of my day almost every day. And not only that, we give people a sense of meaning when they put their t-shirt on their back every day. They know that they have to show up for themselves and their families and their teams. When they put that shirt on, they're representing something more than themselves. But to wrap that all up, I would like to think that Joey and I are in a flow state. While things are always hard in business and entrepreneurship, it seems as though we're doing a lot of the same hard work every day and showing up and swinging our hammers when sometimes the nail isn't going in, if you know what I mean.
100%. 100%. Joey, you got any thoughts to add on this?
Sure, I do. So to answer your question, I think we're doing both, actually. For me, I can't enter flow state, right, if I don't have pure, strong intention to start. So we're doing work in flow state with the intention, which I think is like the kindling for the fire that is flow state, right? So I think that we're doing both, and intention is a big pillar in all of the content that we produce for the community. And I think that that's where it all begins, like that self-awareness. Like our big mission for Fuel Hunt is to restore the dignity of hard work in society, like massive goal to bring hard work back to the rank and respect that it deserves in society, right? That it once had before shortcuts and entitlement and hacks and victim mentalities and things took over. Before things got too noisy to remember that everything you need is already inside of you. Like that's our big mission. And we would never be able to achieve that if we didn't show up every day and say, let's help each one of our community members see and seize that power that's inside of them. If we didn't have that intention when we showed up every day, we wouldn't be able to enter flow state to do all the other great things that we do. So I do agree with you, Drew, and I would like to add on. I think we're doing both.
I love it. Shaun, you got any additional thoughts on it?
Yeah, so now I've got a follow-on question just to refine it a little bit more. Do you find that you, as a team, the two of you, you drive the boat, or does the collective that is following you, is that driving the boat? So, you've got your intention, and it's my way or the highway. This community is going in the direction that I see, or do you capitulate and sit in the back seat and let the community drive it and just keep shrugging your shoulders? Let's just keep kicking ass, whichever way this thing goes. Maybe we'll go off the cliff, but we'll just keep kicking ass. So, where do you find the balance? Is it we're commanding this thing, or they're commanding this thing? And I know those are broad terms and it's a bit rough and loose, but I'm sure you understand the spirit of my question.
Joey, what do you think?
Yeah, of course. I get it 100%. I think at the top of the show, I hit on leading from the front and leading from, the back, right? We do both. So we have a strong vision, a strong mission. We know what our 10-year goal is, to serve 1 million community members. So we do lead from the front, but there are times where we ask the community, how do you want this to go? A most recent example is, for this year, we're really focusing on linking our community members in person. They have such strong bonds over social media, but if we're going to be successful in achieving our big mission, they need to be linked up and synced up in person. So we know that that's the big vision. We're leading from the front with that vision, but then we started leading from the back, and I sent an email out and I said, hey, gang, I sent an email to our community, 100,000, plus members of our community list, our email list. How do you feel about this? Do you really want to hook up in person? I know I've heard from 20 of you and you've told me that, but how about everybody else? How do you feel about it? And to further that, who wants to raise their hand and be a captain, an Eagle captain in your city, county, or state to facilitate these live meetups? Because, we're not at the point right now. We will be, and I can't wait for the day where I can fly around and visit all these local meetups all the time. I'm not at that point. So we need commanders on the ground to make this happen. So is this what you want? And who's going to raise their hand for the work? So that's an example of what I would consider like leading from the back, like setting that big vision from the front and then saying like, okay, let's put it out to the community and get their feelings on it. So again, I think, we're doing both. We are dialed on our big vision. So I don't think we'd ever go to a place where we would say, hey, everybody else take the wheel, take turns on the wheel. We're just going to sit on in the passenger seat and let's just see if we, go off that cliff. We would never let that happen. What we've built has added too much value to society and people's lives for us to do that. But we will take the passenger seat in certain instances to make sure that, again, we are adding the most value that we can to our community.
Absolutely. Drew, you got any points to add?
Yeah, there would never be a point in our company or our journey or our movement that we would ever compromise on our values and let the community take the reins or capitulate to certain people, if that was the question you were asking. But the one thing that I don't think our community members realize is that they inspire us so much on a day-to-day basis that their stories they share with us a lot of times may shape our message, maybe for a future tea or a future post or anything of that nature. So I would say the community does also play a big part in the direction we go.
Absolutely. We do something similar with the collective. We, from the very beginning, Shaun's vision of this was like, we want the community to drive us. Tell us what you want, we will deliver for you. And we've done that since day one. And now that doesn't mean that every idea is gold, right? Sometimes they're out in left field, sometimes they're right on line, but there's a lot of just general it's the collective, right? We as a whole are driving this thing. It's not just Shaun and I that are telling everybody what to do and what they should be doing, other than the fact that they should be doing their best all the time, right? And then Shaun has pick up the pace on his, but it's part of the principle. And to that point, I have a clip here. If you guys are ready to move on to another one.
Let's do it,
I
baby.
do. Sorry, I do have a quick
You got something?
follow-on
What do you
to
got?
either Joey or Drew, and that is, how was that email received that you sent out to all of your subscribers, in the sense of, who's into it? Put your hand up if you want to be a team leader or a captain or whatever the case is, the man on the ground who's going to organize things. How was it received? Was it a amazing, successful return, or was it kind of mediocre, or how did it fly?
Went over really well. There was a little bit of an element of what took you so long.
Okay.
So which I did kind of expect, but I would say we have 50% of the U.S. covered right now.
Fantastic.
So we're doing our first in person here in Philly, the Few Fest, which is a Misogi. We can get into that later, but and then after that, probably focus on the East Coast and the West Coast, and then move towards the middle. But it was received really, really well.
Congrats. That's great.
That is fantastic. Classic pincer maneuver too, which I really like. That's the way to go.
Yes, yes.
Now, to that point, here's a quick video.
Around you that are able to stab you in the face and call you out on your stuff, and say, hey man, you're messing up here. You're not really paying attention. You're just waiting for your turn to talk.
So with that, I wanted to bring this point up because I think it's so important in terms of community that you have people that can straight up tell you, no, that's not working. And I want to ask you guys, do you see that on a regular basis within the few? Start with Drew this time. What do you
think? That's a good question. I mean, there are, as far as us personally, we have a good mentor, business partner, and friend, Bedros, who is one of the greatest humans I've ever met, and he holds us accountable from a leadership and business person standpoint. So I am grateful for him for that, to have that in our close circle, because a lot of times it's Joey and I doing the ones holding people accountable, leading from the front. You know what I mean? But as far as the community, like, they tell us with their comments and their likes, right, what they don't like and do like, literally. So there have been instances where we may have posted different things where people was poorly received, but other than that, nothing I can think of offhand.
Raj, Joey, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had in the past 6 years, right? We've had our, I would say, handful of instances, particularly on social media, where we posted something that wasn't too well received, and honestly, it was because of a blind spot that we had, and the community shed a light on that blind spot. Like, we posted it for a specific reason, and then they were like, "Yeah, but like this type of post also says this." But again, it's like few and far between. In 6 years, it's been a handful of instances, and that the same thing goes over. Same thing goes for messages that I send out over email. I'm very active over email 3 times a week. I email the community lessons from my life, strategies and frameworks that I use to manage my mind and grow on a daily basis. And every once in a while, I'll get a reply. Well, I get tons of replies, but every once in a while I'll get a reply that says, hey, like, I don't necessarily agree with this approach, and here's why. And quite honestly, I love that. I mean, I love it. I love to hear from the community to help us shine a light on any blind spots that we might have, or most of the times it's ways that we can do even better for them. So, we welcome it. And as far as accountability as like a whole, there's an unspoken accountability in the few in our community, just generally. Like, when you put on this apparel, even if you're not aware that there's a member of the few that lives like a mile or two from your home or your gym, when you put on this apparel and you go to the gym, that there are, almost 200,000 people that think and act the same way you do, and they're relying on you to put out when you get there. You know what I mean? So there's that unspoken accountability that even when it's not expressed, it's always there. Like if you're going to wear this gear, there's a standard that needs to be upheld. So that's always there too, even when we don't get feedback. That's one of the beautiful things about Fuel Hunt and our gear for growth.
Love it. Love it.
That's
Sean, you
act-
got any? Oh, Drew, go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, I have one thing to add. The one post I can recall recently, and Joey will laugh at this, but I did the daily post for the day, and I wrote, "You're still not good enough," and that was the main one. And then it slid to a positive message about how you just need to continue to work and develop yourself, no matter how good you think you are. And a lot of times, I don't even know if the people that negatively comment are part of the community, right? They might just have gotten the post on their explore page and decided to leave a comment. But a lot of people, the members of the few, definitely received it well. But there were some negative comments like, "Oh, this is a very negative outlook on life, etc." But when you're creating a counter movement, you're not going to please everybody. We've had to learn that the hard way, right? Like we're doing things that people don't want to do, so that naturally we're going to be ill received by some, maybe many. And then, like Joey said, like when you put on your Fuel Hunt tee, you're not going to sit on the couch all day. So you're kind of holding yourself accountable when you put on your favorite Fuel Hunt shirt.
Love it. Sean, thoughts?
Well, it pleases me that you guys have run a little bit of a counter movement, so we're all in alignment. So there's that. Now I got a question for you. So you're getting feedback from your community, and to Chance's video clip, you need someone who'll tell it to you straight up, like give it to you hard. I'm not saying that 100% of your entire community needs to be all up in your grill and poking you in the chest. But you do need a handful of key players to keep it super freaking real. Like call you out like, dude, that was such a bonehead move. You kind of need those people. But as I see it, this is my experience anyway. I need a handful of people to keep it real. And then I need like a next level. And we'll call that a mentor, or we'll call that the dude who's large and in charge, more large and in charge than I am. And I've got quite a few friends who are. And so I've got a community that keeps me real, but then I've got that tip of this spear, and that is, I do not want to disappoint that dude. I cannot slip on this, or I'm letting him down. So I've heard you mention Bedros's name a couple of times. I'm assuming that I don't want to get into your business details of investing or whatever, but it seems like he's a mentor at some level. And so do you find that there's a different level of accountability between your community who'll poke you in the chest from time to time versus that person that maybe we'll call it look up to?
Yeah. Drew, what do you think?
Sean, that's a great question. I mean, there are very few people in this world that I look up to anymore. And Joey and Bedros are two of them, right? Like Joey started out as my mentor, as we're cousins, but he was always that cousin at family parties where I'd be like, damn, I want to be a lot like that guy. So when every day, if I ever, and I always say this, but if you ever think about mailing it in one day, just know that you're letting down all the people that believe in you. And when I show up every day for work, I do my best, like your slogan says, for specifically Joey, Bedros, and my sister Brianna, who runs all our operations. Like we're a very tight-knit, family-run business, and then we have Caroline and a couple people in the warehouse. But I don't want to let them down. So I show up every day for my team, my partners, Joey and Bedros. But to that point of the mentor and people you look up to, I would say Joey and Bedros are that for me personally.
Absolutely. Joey, thoughts?
Same. Echoing what Drew said, I think that the community holds us accountable to, our charter and the rules of the few, and making sure that we are doing our best to create work product, whatever that work product is, whether it's apparel, content, podcast episodes, in-person meetups. They're holding us accountable to say, like, this is at the standard of the few, right? And then above that, we have that group of people that hold us extremely accountable, not only to our work product, but who we are as individuals and how we steer this ship that is the company Fuel Hunt. And that group of people, as Drew mentioned, it's Caroline, it's Brianna, it's Bedros, it's that inner circle, really like the leadership team of the organization. And there's no better way to say it than Drew said it. We are flawed, imperfect people, all of us, us included. And there are days where you have to scrape yourself out of bed. You just don't feel like doing it. You don't feel like doing the work. And when that happens for me, I know that I can't let my team here down. I have a visualization I do that's a stadium in Philly, and it's filled with a few, and I'm on the field and they're all staring at me, right? And they're like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? You don't feel like doing it. What are you going to do? And that's the visualization that I use in addition to, thinking about Drew and Bedros and Caroline and Rose and Brianna to get me going when those times get tough.
I love that. Shaun, you got any additional points on this?
Well, I am a visual guy myself, and as you were saying or telling that story or speaking out about the arena or the stadium, here's what I also thought, buddy. Like sometimes a stadium will be looking down at you in the middle, maybe on the center stage, and maybe they're clapping, but sometimes they're just freaking silent, and it's like you kind of you drop the mic, but not in a good way, or maybe they're pelting you with popcorn. Like, I mean, do you ever visualize like not just the success? Does that ever push you, or how do you use your visualization? It's just a tangent thought that I had.
Yeah, great question. So in that visualization, particularly, they're silent because they're waiting for me to make a move, right? But I'm a big pre-mortem guy, which I know probably isn't all that popular in this world of positive vibes that we live in. But yeah, I frequently envision them pelting me with snowballs with batteries inside. If you're familiar with that story from Philadelphia, right? Santa Claus showed up drunk at an Eagles game. The whole stadium was in an uproar. They put batteries inside of snowballs and threw them at Santa. So I do visualize the negative as well because I need to feel that feeling sometimes. I need to feel what it's like to get pelted so that it will push me. And as we continue with Fuel Hunt, the problems and the challenges get bigger, right? As you have more impact, the mountains get higher that you need to climb. So I find personally that, keeping that type of, I call it a pre-mortem, right? Instead of a post-mortem, or like a pre-mortem visualization is helpful to me, Same with sometimes you have to dive into your pain, remember your pain a little bit, let it sit on your shoulder as a chip. There are days where your only motivation may be to prove people wrong, and sometimes you have to lean into that. Sometimes.
I like that. Drew, you got any points on this? No? It reminded me of the fact that it's never quite as bad of a feeling when someone's angry at you versus when someone is disappointed in you. Right, that whole disappointed dad thing. And I remember back when I was training in the military, a lot of times there was always this duality between your training instructors. You had one that was always screaming and yelling and you like it forced action, but there was always one that was just quiet. And if you didn't do what was needed, they just kind of sighed and went, and then they'd walk off, and then the yelling one would come in and just go to town, right? But that to be the disappointment of someone else, it's a horrible feeling. And so I love the fact that you brought up to accept, and not only accept it, but use it to drive you forward is fantastic. I really love that. Shaun, you got any other points at all? No? Okay, I got another video here. Let's dive into another one. Here we go.
How do we have gratitude in general? How do we have gratitude for the person that comes and clean your table after you're done at the restaurant? How do we have gratitude for, for the person that's, freaking brewing your coffee, whatever the case may be?
So the reason I brought this one in here is because I think it's extremely important to talk about gratitude, especially when you're talking about a community. And I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on this, and that not only how do you show gratitude, but how do you teach the community to be gracious as well? Joey, what do you think? Oh, I'm just gonna. Sorry, you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Sorry, sirens in the background. Drew is going to nail this, so I would like to volley it over to him if possible. I'm breaking the rules, I think.
Absolutely do that. No problem. Drew, what do you got?
Well, it's funny that you asked this today because I don't know if you guys saw our OG, we call them, our daily post today was gratitude, grit, and go, which is the rule number what, Joe? 3, 4 of the few rules of the few. But every day we say we like to start our day with the few energy, right? Gratitude that you're here another day, grit to get through whatever you got to go through, and then go. You got to go do. But like Joey, myself, like we tell everyone that all of the posts and apparel we make comes from our stories and our scars. And mine, in particular, I start every day with my gratitude journal, but they let me know that your gratitude starts with your perspective, right? Like when you woke up today, you were gifted another day on this earth that a lot of other people weren't. So someone else would gladly take your problems for today, right as they are. So my scars and my stories have told me that to shift my perspective and just be grateful every day that we get. But yeah, the post today was gratitude, grit, and go, the few energy. So that's how we teach our community, to answer your question, Chance.
Love it. Joey, got any thoughts to add?
Yeah, just to add that the few energy. So the rule is bring the few energy, and that few energy has 3 components, right? Gratitude, grit, and go, and it results in growth. Like we've made gratitude a pillar of our energy, meaning how we show up into a room and the feeling that is left in the room when we leave it, you know? And much of, as Drew hit on, much of our content speaks to what you've gone through in the past, the work that you're doing in the present, right? And who you will be in the future because of it. And gratitude is so important when you look through that lens, because you literally have to be grateful for the scars of your past, your mistakes, the things that potentially were done unto you. And you have to be grateful for those and reframe them as things that gave you strength, right? Things that made you grittier, right? So that's the second. It's the gratitude and it's the grit. And then you have to apply that in the go and go do the things that are going to move you forward towards the future you. So it's literally, gratitude is literally a pillar. I don't have a gratitude, just to hit on like a daily practice for gratitude. I don't have a gratitude journal anymore. I did do that at one point in my life, but now I find that I channel the most gratitude, both for my blessings and my challenges on a daily basis, by serving others. One thing that I do specifically is my daughters are young, 7 and 4. I created email accounts for them that I'll give them access to when they're 18. And on a daily basis, I send them, photos and memories from the day, voice memos and emails. And that really helps me, despite any challenges that we may have as a community or a counter movement or a company. It helps me dial up my gratitude and be grateful for them, because it really reminds me of the blessings that I have in my life. 2 of the very largest blessings being my daughters. So,
Absolutely. John, you got any thoughts on this?
I do. So, gratitude, grit, go. And if I screw up any mantras, that's on me, because again, I didn't know about you guys 12 hours ago. So I think that my question is this, and as you both relayed it out, as you both set the stage for how you manage this particular topic, great answers. But the follow on or the build off of that is, it seems to me that you both easily understand how to discuss gratitude and how to discuss grit and how to discuss go. But what are you doing within your community to exemplify that, So if you can state it just as you did in this podcast, I believe that you understand it. But then I'm a guy who likes tangible evidence. I like, dude, you're talking all day long, but let's see your body of work. And I know that you guys have got a body of work. And so how do you demonstrate your body of work? Do you talk about, well, back in the day, for the last 10 years, I've been doing knuckle push-ups on frozen ice? Or, do you talk about what you did today? Or do you talk about, how do you portray this gratitude grit go to the community so that it's easily assimilated or easy to absorb?
That is an excellent question. Let's go to Drew first on this one.
Great question, Sean. But we talked about this in one of our podcast episodes, but another rule of the few is to give, right? So the one thing Joey and I did in the beginning of our business, which we may have put us in some hot water financially, is we didn't set we are naturally, as Joey said, givers by nature, right? So our prices have never, even to this day, are just not where they need to be to create a generational wealth, right? Like we're so focused on pouring into our community through our content and our apparel that we literally just haven't cared about making money as much we should have, right, at some point. So we've actually given so much through our content and our community and our apparel by not setting the right prices, giving in our orders, giving through our content, giving of our time. Joey and I will literally give until we run out of business, and that's just portrayed in our apparel and our content. So that's what I believe, how we lead from the front in giving. But Joe, do you have any other thoughts?
What do you think, Joe?
Sorry, I'm muting myself. So my sentiment is similar, right? It's rooted in the give. The sentiment that I hear mostly from the community about how we exemplify this is we show up for them every day. Like since 2017, we haven't missed a darn day with giving to the community through our content, through charitable efforts that we do that we don't even speak about, right? Through personal connection with our community members off of Instagram. Like when our community looks at us, I think that that's what they see first. They see the consistency that we have, no matter how hard it gets, no matter what season of business we're in, no matter what season we're in personally. We show up every darn day for them, and they can expect, for example, that post in the morning that helps them get their mind right to go do what they need to do for the given day. Now, that's what we hear from the community. For me personally, and Sean, I don't know if you were hitting on it like personally as well, but I make sure that if I'm going to ask the community to do hard things every day, that I'm doing them as well. Like I'm never going to ask them to do something that I wouldn't do while I sit in some kind of like ivory comfortable tower. First of all, it's not who I am as a person, but it wouldn't be exemplary leadership as a leader in our community. So I'm out there getting my tail kicked in on the mats, 4 times a week, right? I started jujitsu at 40, right? So I've been at it for about 2 years now. That's one of the things that I do on a daily basis or near daily basis. That's hard, very hard for me. And in that, I don't share too much of that, or we don't share too much of that on the Fuel Hunt account. I share it more on my personal account. But in that, I try to set the example of saying, like, look, like I'm out here doing something super uncomfortable. Like I decided to pick up martial arts at 40. Like what crazy maniac does that? You know what I mean? I'm out here doing something uncomfortable. I find purpose in it. Here's how I found purpose in it. And that's why you should do hard things too. That's just an example of like, one of the things I'm doing on a daily basis. But I live my life by 3 choices, which kind of line up with the gratitude, the grit, and the go. I love more than I loathe. I embrace more than I escape, right? And Shaun, to your point earlier, I create more than I consume. And I make sure that when I show up in the world, that people see that, so that, they understand that we just didn't create something that sounded good. Like, we've created something that's going to change society. And before it does that, we're going to change a bunch of amazing humans. So, they can strengthen themselves, and then we can ultimately strengthen society.
Absolutely. You guys need to get out of our brain, because
Mm.
you can state quite a lot of what we espouse as well. At one point, Shaun called me out on live on a show for doing just that, for stating a lot of
Mhm.
things without showing, without doing. And I went out the next day, threw my ruck on, and went for a nice long walk, and had no idea what I was doing, and had to rejig my entire mindset. And since that day, everything has started to fall in line again, because I've been doing what I've been saying, not just saying and not doing. I think that's such a great point.
Everybody has a microphone this year. You know what I mean? And in 2024, everybody's got a microphone. And rule number one of the few: do not be entitled. Earn everything. Everybody's got a microphone, and some of those microphones haven't been earned. I'm comfortable. Weird word choice, but I'm comfortable that mine's been earned, and I'll continue to earn mine. But there's a lot of talking and not a lot of action nowadays. That's for sure.
If I had a nickel for every time Shaun has said that, we would be
Yeah.
well off. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
The fun part about this is that I love hanging out with other communities that espouse the same things, and we develop the collective with the concept of being a collective. And Shaun stated at the beginning of this year, this is the year of the collab. So we'll have to get something sorted out between the two of us, and we'll get a collective fuel hunt, something. We'll figure it out. Shaun, you got any thoughts on this?
I do, and I really do respect what you did, Joey and Drew. I believe that you also started up BJJ right around the same time as Joey. So, and I don't know how old you are, Drew, but you don't look like a spring chicken, but you don't look like you're over the hill either. So, I do dig what you guys are talking about in respect to embracing that adversity at an older age. Myself, I was doing martial arts for 32 years before I stepped onto the BJJ mats as a brand spanking new day one white belt. And I tied on that BJJ white belt when I was 52. And so I've been doing BJJ for 8 years now. And it's no joke. It's hard. It's a hard grind. And anyone who's in that game understands exactly the amount of respect that you earn over the years, not over the day, over the years. And I think that's to the point of, you got to put out on a consistent basis over a timeline that is respectable. A week isn't respectable. A month isn't respectable. A year isn't respectable. You got to be heading towards almost a decade's worth of work till it becomes notable, at least in my opinion. So with you guys being in the game for 6-7 years, now it's notable. You've grinded your way to a point where it is of note. It's not a flash in the pan. It's not everyone has a microphone nowadays. It's the right person has got the microphone if they've been in the game long enough, to the point that you guys are right now. So I've got a follow-on question. I believe one of your mantras is give, get, or get, give. So if that is the case, then you're giving of your time, you're giving of your intellectual property, you're giving of your apparel, you're giving of a lot of things. But what's the get in it for you? Now, I know you've got an answer right now. Bam, you've already thought of the answer. But I'm going to tweak it a little bit and say, what's the get now versus the get in the first year? So the give get comparative, year 1 versus year 7.
That is a dang good question. Joey, what do you got?
You want me to start with year 1 or year 7? Year 1? Year 1, sorry, I thought I muted myself. Year 1 was the get was, we don't want to feel alone anymore. Honestly, that's what it was. It was, does anybody still think like us, believe in the power of hard work, or is everybody seduced by shortcuts? We don't want to feel alone anymore. We want to surround ourselves with people that think and act like us. That was the get of year 1. which Sean, you may not know, apparel didn't even make it to the scene, the Few Will Hunt scene, until 2019, 2018, 2019, late 2018. So for like 2 years, right? So there was never any notion of, which I see a lot nowadays, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but there was never any notion of like, let's sell a bunch of apparel and get rich quick type thing. Like literally, it was rooted in feelings of loneliness. That's year one. Year 7, 8, 9, 10 to infinity. For me personally, the get is freedom of purpose, right? There's a few different freedoms, I think, in life. There's, freedom of time, right? Which is a big one in this entrepreneurial space, right? I want to be free to do what I want, I want my time free. I don't want to trade my time for a paycheck. There's freedom of time. But for me, year 7 and beyond, it's freedom of purpose. I have the freedom to create things, work product, like I call it. I know that's a little bit of a stiff term, but work product. I get to create work product on a daily basis that serves humanity. That's complete freedom of purpose, for me, in my opinion and in my life. So that's the get for me now. Everything else has fallen away, to be honest. Everything else has fallen away. I'm not concerned with any other get than being able to use the tools that I've acquired throughout my life and continue to acquire the tools and skills to create things that serve humanity.
Love it. Love it. Drew, any thoughts?
Shaun, you're a deep dude, man. I like your style. You're asking the hard hitting questions. So a couple of things that you touched on. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that about BJJ. Like, it's a great metaphor for people that do business well and make it in business or achieve great things in life, right? Like, if you can show up every day for 10 plus years and continue to get not punched in the face, because it's not that kind of martial art, but continue to get choked out and show up every day like a beginner willing to learn, then you'll actually achieve in BJJ, right? Like, and continue to not give up when it's hard, because it's always hard. And I feel like that applies so directly to life and business that it makes people that do big things in life and business want to do BJJ, because they're so used to that grind and that pain. But to answer your question, to be completely honest, year one, there was not much get for myself personally or Joey personally. It was very, very hard on my family, my mental state, my health. Like, it was a grind, dude. Like, and we always say you got to love the process, trust the process. And in the beginning, it was not fun. I don't know if you guys dealt with that in the beginning of your journey, but like, it's hard, dude. Like, creating something from nothing. But finding, like Joey said, finding solace in the fact that we weren't alone anymore, and we were starting to build something great that spanned the length of the test of time. But like I'll agree with Joey now in year 7. What I get is I get to wake up and do what I love with who I love, right? I get to wake up every day and not hate going to work, and enjoy what I'm doing and who I'm doing it with, and the fulfillment of creating this movement is what I get every day.
Love it. Love it. The we're just about at an hour now, and I want to give you guys a chance to kind of talk about the few in general and like the community itself and what you got coming up in the next little while. But Shaun, you got any other thoughts or questions before we jump into that?
I do, and I do want to hear more about that. But first, I want to ask a specific question. There might not be a good answer. There might not be a single answer, but I'm going to try to propose it based on my loose knowledge of listening to that 1-hour interview on YouTube back in 2021 that I watched last night with you guys. And so, if I recall correctly, at some point you were starting to design apparel, or you'd bought a whole boatload of apparel or blanks or whatever. and you kind of had invested at the front end pretty heavily, and you weren't really churning over the merchandise at a rate that was making it profitable. And so I think at some point in the interview, one of you said, we were constantly putting out quotes or things that we believed in that were kind of catchy, a catchy quote that was a personal quote. And someone would say, you should put that on a t-shirt. You should put that on a t-shirt. And so it was quote after quote that should go on a t-shirt. So Chance and I have kind of an inside joke. When we started the collective on January 1st of last year, I came on in front of a microphone, which was not my jam, by the way, and said, I don't even know what we're doing. I don't know where this thing will go. We'll figure it out. We'll start kicking ass. See you tomorrow. And so that's kind of how it started out. And along the way, quotes have been flying around, personal quotes from myself or from maybe a guest or whatever the case is. And commenters will jump in and say, that's got to be a t-shirt. That needs to go on a t-shirt. So after about the 1000th time that we'd heard that, Chance started on his Merchy McMerch routine where he was all about the merch. We got to start merch. We need a hat. We need a t-shirt. And I was doing this. I'm not into that game. I'm out here to kick ass. I'm not here to sell t-shirts. I'm doing it for reasons that have to feel righteous to me rather than I'm here to sell. I'm here to make. I'm here to profit. And so I think that you guys probably went through a little phase like that yourself. At least what I heard in the interview, I inferred that at some point you kind of came in with merch in mind. And then at some point you got right with the idea that your quotes are legit. The community wanted them. And eventually you pulled the trigger and started executing against the creating merch that was righteous for you guys. So I'd just like to hear a little bit about that phase where you were kind of on the cusp of, I am so not into creating all of these quotes. And then all of a sudden, let's freaking do it. So what was it?
Yeah. So in 2017, we started out as a community. So I always say that we were purpose and people first. So what 2017 and 2018 look like is us putting our words, thoughts, and emotions onto paper in like a blog or on social media to attract people to think and act like us. That's it. There was no selling environment or offer or merchandise, nothing. When we got to a point where we had a few thousand members in our community, that's when they started asking. I would love to see prefer pain, on a shirt. I would love this mantra on a shirt or on a hoodie. And like we hit on at the top of the show about letting the community drive, right? Seeing the big vision, but then always listening to the community so that we could understand how we could add the most value to their lives. We listened and we said, all right, let's do this. Let's start to put some of our mantras on tees. And again, we had to think of it from a business standpoint because initially it wasn't going well. And that's the whole question of like, did we have a blog or did we have a business? Like the profit and the product also had to be considered in addition to what we started with, which was our purpose and our people. So our product and profit came later. You see businesses start the other way nowadays. What can I sell? What can I sell it for? Who can I sell it to? Right? And then they're in it for a couple of months and they say, oh, this is why I'm doing it. Like, this is the purpose. But all those other P's follow first. We did it the reverse. So you did a good job of articulating, how it went for us. The same thing was with Fightwear. When our community members that were grapplers or fighters started to ask for Fightwear, so versions of our tees, but now on rash guards, cross combat shorts, gear, right? We said to ourselves, okay, let's listen. This is a way we can add value to the community. And that at that time, we also stepped up and said, who would we be if, we weren't fighting or grappling? Like, who would we be creating this work product for our community when we ourselves weren't training? So we started training, that was kind of the journey. But the apparel and the fightwear, we don't look at it as merchandise. I do half-day coachings here at HQ for entrepreneurs, and I always tell them, people don't buy merchandise. They buy meaning. That's what they buy, right? So standing up this giant merch store, thinking you're going to make all this money, that's not the way it works. Like, you have to add value to someone's life in a way that shakes who they are as a person, like their core identity, wakes up their identity. You have to do that. That is what will ensure that somebody buys your merchandise, or, however, your merch, or whatever, however you want to put it. So from our perspective, we're always saying to ourselves, what can we create, whether it's a tee or a rash guard or cross combat shorts, what can we create that's going to shake our community members' identity to its core, empower them? How do we want them to feel when they wear this? And then from my perspective, the rest takes care of itself. It will sell, and then we'll be able to attract and earn more money to magnify the impact that we want to have on society. We were late to the game with understanding that, money is a requirement to the massive impact that we want to have. In order for us to magnify that impact and make it a reality, restoring the dignity of hard work, we can't do it broke. We can't. We have to earn to invest in our community members and in the growth of our community. So a little bit of a soliloquy there, but that's kind of how it all transpired.
Love it. Drew, you got any points to add to this?
No, I will say though, there is one little bit of that story. We did start with apparel, but it was personally. So this shirt I have back here is our very first ever shirt, because the story goes that one day Joey and I, the whole business started with Joey and I talking on the phone after work every day, because we were so frustrated with the way society was going and our coworkers were going about their lives. So we would just talk about restoring the dignity of hard work on our calls. And at one point, Joey said, it's like they say, like, everybody wants to eat, but few will hunt. And it was something they always said at the Bowen family hunting cabin. And I was like, what did you just say? And he repeated it. And I was like, we got to get that on a shirt ASAP. And this was before any Instagram or anything. So we printed these shirts and then we gave them out to our family, our uncles. And as you can see, they don't really hold a candle to the designs we have now. But we did wear them proudly, but they were not for sale.
This is, I do want to add a little thing about the whole merch situation here at the collective, is that we've been going through the same, very similar process. And actually, I really do appreciate how you brought that all together, because it has clarified some things in my own head as to what it is we've wanted to do. And I actually thought of a t-shirt while you guys were talking too, so I had to write it down. But the key thing, I think, is giving back to the community what they want, which is connection to the community. And I think that is such a key thing with everything that the collective stands for, everything that the Fuel stands for, is everything comes back to the team, to the unit, to the community, to the people. Everything is about service to others. And if I need to stand up and stand alone in order to do that and raise my fist and be like, I am here to bring hard work back to the world, there will be people that will line up behind me and they will do the exact same thing. So I think it's such a great point. We are a little bit over time now, and I do want to hear what you got coming up in the next little while. What's going on for the Fuel Hunt in the next 6 months, a year? What do you guys got planned? Joey, what do you think? You got to unmute yourself, though.
Siren, sorry. It's actually been pretty peaceful. I didn't think I'd be able to get through some of my longer statements without hearing an ambulance. So it's been pretty peaceful. For this year, like I mentioned at the top of the show, one of our big initiatives is to link the few in person, right? So that's going to be going on over the next couple of months. And then that kind of culminates at the end of this year with a growth and grappling tour. So we're going to take the show on the road and we're going to hit 4 cities in the US. And we're going to do a growth focused seminar with some speakers from different industries. And then after that, we're going to have a grappling seminar. So we're going to hit the growth and the grappling in 4 major US cities, and then the world next year, hopefully. But we're going to cap off the in-person thing this year with that tour, which is really exciting. Another big thing that we have going on is we have a private community now, Fuel Hunt Rise. So that comes with a bunch of growth and gear benefits. On the growth side, we have speakers in there on a bi-weekly basis from different industries, personal development resources, obviously a deeper level of connection than you can get on social media. And then there's gear benefits, a bunch of like unlimited free shipping, unlimited 20% on your orders, like all that good stuff. So we have that going on. It's growing, which I'd love to see. One of the things that's so amazing that's coming from it is eagles working with eagles, so the few working with each other. So in their daily lives. So, if somebody is a personal trainer or a nutritionist, they're working directly with other members of the few. Instead of that person just going out and like Googling a nutritionist in their area, they're working with someone they know that thinks and acts like them from our community. So that's really cool. So that's growing. So Fuel Hunt Rise and the Growth and Grappling Tour are 2 of the bigger things we've got going on this year. We did cut over, which I'm not sure if you know, but we cut over to Made in the USA. We were making things, creating work product in various parts of the globe since our inception. Most of it was in the US, but there were some other corners of the globe that we were working in. As of last year, July 4th, we've cut over to Made in the USA for all of our gear. That includes our fightwear. So that's another big thing we got on deck this year. We have some gear bags and gis that we're currently working on manufacturing right here in the US.
Sweet. That's fantastic. You got a whole lot going on. I love it.
Yeah.
Drew, you got anything to add on that at all? No? Good to go. All right. Shaun, you got any final, actually, before we get to, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, just I keep messing around with this quote, few will hunt, but more will hunt as a collective, or the idea that you've created a community, of course, and your tagline, your slogan is few will hunt, which I'm totally in love with, by the way. But then I'm figuring out, like it's what you're doing already, but the idea that you can go out there and hunt by yourself, or you can go out there and hunt with a clan. And hunting with a clan is always more successful, and by the way, always more fun and rewarding and lifelong lessons and all of that good stuff. So I do like the few will hunt, but I'd somehow love for you guys to tie in, but hunt with a collective or hunt with a community or something like that. I don't know. Random idea. I'm no good at merch, obviously. So I do appreciate what you guys have brought to the table in the way of your background story and your thoughts. And somehow, like an hour 13 into this thing, I feel like I need another hour 13 to just keep the conversation rolling. But I know you've probably got other things to do. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate your time before we go into final comments.
Likewise, brother. And I just like to say that this one, my cliche tagline is like eagles know eagles when they meet them, right? Like when you meet another member of the few, you're like, damn, like I think like this dude. So it's always nice to get on these podcasts and tell our story with people that are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing quite like, I'm going to say it, being a part of the collective, right? When you're surrounded by people that are the same, it's just fantastic. So let's get some final thoughts. Anything at all still bubbling around in the back of your head, or anything that we've talked about so far? Any final thoughts at all, Drew? I'm going to come back to you. What do you think?
No, like to echo Shaun, I would just like to say thank you for believing in us and our mission and having us on. It's always, Joey and I are usually heads down, humble, hard work. So to take time to do interviews like this and tell the story and share the messages from the community and how much we appreciate everyone that's a part of it is nice to sit back and reflect every once in a while, because we don't always do the best job of smelling the roses while we're grinding. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I guess there aren't too many roses in Philly too, right? Might not smell the same. Joey, any final thoughts?
I
You're gonna have
will.
to.
Yeah, see, I'm a quick learner, right? I mean, you don't have to remind me 3 times. I want to echo Drew's gratitude for the both of you. Thank you very much for having us on. I was very candid, Shaun, as you've been. I wasn't able to watch many of the shows, your previous shows before joining you today. So it was amazing to come here, connect with the both of you, speak about the topics that I think need to be spoken about in the world, and also get some really thoughtful questions from you, Shaun. So thank you. And last thought is, let's run it back. Like, let's do another hour 13 another day. Like, you know what I mean? You just say the word and we're here.
Absolutely. We'll get you set up for the full
The
length
word.
collective because we got two, right. The gold mine is just the first live, but then
And you
we
guys
also
are the
have
first up. I mean, like
nailed it.
you're flank holders, man.
All right.
I'll wait for my plaque.
There's no taking that back. I mean, you're the first up. That's a one and done kind of situation. No one in history ever gets that again. So I know it's not a big deal, maybe, but it's a big deal to us. And
For sure.
and I couldn't be happier with the way it went, to be honest, because before I knew anything about you guys, like I was about 3 minutes into your YouTube interview from back in 2021 when Chance mentioned your names. And here's how I kind of went into the video. Who are these guys? I mean, what have they even done? Because I'm used to like talking with Green Berets and Delta and all of this usual stuff, like people that I ascribe or elevate to. Those guys have kicked ass. And so I went into the interview thinking, not who are these chumps? I didn't think that. I just thought, who are these guys and what's the buzz about them? But I was 15 minutes into that interview and I didn't have time to watch the whole hour, but I watched the whole hour because 15 minutes and I thought, there's something to these guys. I really like what they're putting down. I like the vibe. I like the style. I don't know how they came to be who they are. I don't know what their careers were. I don't know how they were raised. I don't know if they chopped down trees when they were 6 or what it was that has created them into the men that they are, but I really liked it. So in my world, you either are or you aren't. And I know that you aren't retired Green Berets, but I know that you are ass kickers. And so titles for me get stripped away as long as a guy kicks ass or he performs to the degree that he chirps. So if you're talking and doing, I'm a big fan. If you're just talking, you've lost my interest. So I am so pleased that what I saw in the interview last night on that YouTube channel in 2021 matches up with the guys that I just finished talking to. You're both awesome dudes, and I hope to run it back. So thanks a lot.
I'll all set it up. Don't you worry.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Shaun. I
That
appreciate
that means a lot coming from a man of your caliber. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It is it's high praise coming from Shaun. He doesn't spout that out often. And it
Thank you.
reminded me of just this great line that I always use when I talk about jiu-jitsu is, getting on the mats of justice, because you can't lie on the mats. There's doesn't matter if you have a good day, you have a bad day, don't matter. It's going to show on the mats. And I think it applies to life in the fact that if you come forward every day and think of the world as your mats of justice, it's going to show up. So you keep showing up. You're going to keep kicking ass and taking names. So I can't thank you guys enough. This has been a fantastic conversation. And I'm going to set this up a second time, probably in a long form version, something where we can actually sit around and chat for a long period of time, because we're going to need it. I have a feeling we're going to need it.
Music to my ears.
Right? So I don't have a ton left to add here. I think it's just been fantastic. I don't even have my usual closer that I have for the collective, but I will use it again. So every day, continue to learn, build, grow. You can do that here with us at the gold mine. We'll see y'all. Gmo.
Gmo.